Welcome once again, my dear viewers, to my YouTube channel. Our today's lesson is about direct proportion. What is a proportion? Proportions are just basically equivalent fractions. Like for instance, if you are an ice cream seller, when the temperatures are high, that is on a hot day, you tend to sell more ice cream as compared to a cold day. Therefore, the number of ice cream that you are going to sell, they are directly proportional to the amount of money you are going to make. So, the hotter the temperature, the higher the amount of money you are going to get from the high sales. The sale of the ice cream and also the temperature are directly proportional. Another case example is that distance and fuel consumption. Like a distance of 5 kilometers could be consuming 2 liters of fuel. But if the distance is increased to 15 kilometers, then we can say 3 liters is going to be consumed. So an increase in distance leads to an increase in fuel consumption. We have said proportions are what we call equivalent fractions. Fractions. So I want us to remind ourselves what are equivalent fractions. For instance, let's write the equivalent fractions to 3/4. As an equivalent fraction, here, if I write here to be 16 as a denominator, what are we going to write here for a numerator? So we ask ourselves, what happened to this 4 to become 16? So whatever happens to the denominator should also happen to the numerator. So this 4 to become 16, they multiplied by 4. So 4 times 4 is 16. Therefore, 3 times 4 is going to be 12. So 12 over 16 is an equivalent fraction to 3 over 4. Now another equivalent fraction to 3/4 can be 3 over 4. So if here on the numerator we have 9, what's going to be our denominator here? Remember we have said you look at the number that has changed. So our 3 has changed to become 9. Then you ask yourself, what happened to 3 to become 9? Remember, whatever you do to the numerator should also be done to the denominator. Meaning this 3, for it to become 9, they multiplied here by 3. So 3 times 3 becomes 9. So also, because we multiply the numerator by 3, also multiply the denominator by 4. So 4 times 3 becomes 12. So 9 over 12 is an equivalent fraction to 3/4. Given this kind of a word problem, how now do we solve it? The cost of 4 shirts is 4,800. What is the cost of one such shirt? Using the idea of equivalent fraction, we need to adhere to one rule, that the units must be the same. What do I mean by this? When I'm recording down, the units that are the same must take the first row. 4 shirts and 1 shirt. So shirts and shirts must be the same of the same row. These are row. And then the cost that is 4,800 should also be at the same column. We are looking for the value that we don't know here. Because 4 shirts, they cost this. What will be the cost of 1 shirt? And this formula is that of equivalent fractions. So, as we had said here initially, you ask yourself, what did they do to 4 to become 1? Meaning, for 4 to become 1, they divided by 4. Therefore, also this one must be divided by 4 to get our equivalent fraction here. 4,800 divided by 4. By 4, it's 1. 4 divided by 4, it's 1. By 4, it's 1, 2, 0, 0. Therefore, when you divide here by 4, you get 1,200. Now, we have used the equivalent fraction to get the cost of one shirt. So, one shirt was going for Kenyan shillings 1,200. We can also use another method called cross multiplication. So this is equivalent fraction. Let us also solve the same question but now using cross multiplication. Cross multiplication. We are given 4 shirts were costing 4,800. What about one shirt is equals to what? So whatever I don't know here is a x, unknown like x. And now we cross multiply. So 4 times x is going to be 4x. 1 times this is 4. 1 times 4,800 is 4,800. And now, according to algebra, we want to find out the value of x. So here, we want to do away with this x by removing this coefficient of x here. So we divide both sides with 4. Remember the algebra rule says whatever you do on the left should also be done at the right. So we have divided here by 4 on our left. So we should also divide here by 4 on our right. So by 4, 1, by 4, 1. Our x is equals to by 4, 1, by 4 is 12. And then our answer is 1,200. So you can see that we have used 2 formulas, equivalent fraction and also cross multiplication. So it's upon you to choose which one is easier for you. Let us do our next example. A car consumes 7 liters of petrol to travel 64 kilometers. How many liters will it use to travel 256 kilometers? Remember, we said when you're using equivalent fractions, the same units must be at the same row. So, according to our question, we are being asked about how many liters will it use to travel 256 kilometers. So, we are given kilometers. We are also given kilometers here. We are given liters, but we don't know. We are looking for the other liters. Therefore, 64 kilometers is equals to 256 kilometers. Remember, we have said the same units must be at the same level, that is, at the same row. Then, the other things now are the liters, taking the denominator part of it, is equals to a question mark. So when we have our question mark, we ask ourselves, what happened to 64 to become 256? So as we can see, the number has increased. So we can divide 256 divide by 64 to know what happened to that number. So 256 divide by 64. By 2, it's 32. By 2, it's 128. By 2, it's 16. By 2, it's 64. By 8, it's 2. By 8, it's 8. By 2, 1. By 2, it's 4. Therefore, they multiplied 64 with 4 to get 256. So whatever has happened to our numerator should also happen to our denominator. So 7 times 4 is 28. And therefore, our answer is 28 liters. Now, let's do the same question now using cross multiplication. For cross multiplication, a distance of 64 kilometers consumes 7 liters of fuel. What about a distance of 256 kilometers will consume how many liters? So we cross multiply. This is why we have our question mark. Now we cross multiply like this. So it shall be 64x is equals to 7 times 256 kilometers. So we want our x here. So we do away with 64 by dividing on both sides. So by 64, it's 1. By 64, it's 4. So 7 times 4, it's 28. Which is 28 liters. Therefore, you can either use equivalent fractions or you use cross multiplication method. Our third example, you are told that a boy's stride is 66 centimeters. How many strides would he make to cover a distance of 13.5 meters? Now, to our first formula, where we are supposed to use equivalent fractions. Remember, we have said for you to use equivalent fraction, the units must be the same. But here in our question, we are given the stride as a length of 66 centimeters. And now the distance is in meters, which is 13.5 meters. So because of that rule, you change the units to be the same. So we are changing our meters to become centimeters. Remember, 100 centimeters is equals to 1 meter. What about 13.1/5 meters is equals to what? So you change this mixed fraction to improper fraction. For 5 multiplied by 13, that is 65. 65 plus 1, that is 66. So we have 66 meters on this side over 5. So 66 over 5 times 100 by 5, 1 by 5 is 20. 20 times 66. So 66 times 2 is 12. 12 plus 1, 13, then we add our 0 there. So now the distance is 1,320 centimeters. We can use our equivalent fraction formula. So 66 centimeters is equals to 1320 centimeters. What about, that is, in one stride, it covers a distance of 66. And what is a stride? A stride is the distance between one leg and the other leg, or one foot and the other foot as you are making steps. Therefore, this distance from here to here is what we call a stride. So meaning that one stride is equivalent to 66 centimeters. So 1 is equals to what? Therefore, you ask yourself, what did he do here to get 1320? So 66 times 2 is 132. So 66 times 20 is 1320. So here times 20 and here times 20. So 1 times 20 is 20. So therefore, this boy, he made 20 strides to cover a distance of 13.5 meters. That is according now to equivalent fraction. Now let us use cross multiplication. Using cross multiplication formula, you use the word if. That is, if one stride is equals to 66 centimeters, how many strides will cover a distance of 1,320 centimeters? Remember, we had converted our meters into centimeters. You must have the same units. You can't work with different units. If it's meters, there must be meters, all of them. If it's centimeters, you choose centimeters, all of them. So now let's cross multiply. Here, when we have our question mark, we put a x. So it's 66x is equals to 1320 centimeters. So we want the value of x here. So 66 over 66. X is equals to, by 66, 1, by 66 is 2. 2 times 10 is 20. And therefore, the answer is 20 strides. So let's have a summary for today's lesson. We have learned about direct proportion, and we have learned the two methods that are normally used when working out questions dealing with direct proportions. These are equivalent fractions and cross multiplication. I wish you all the best, and kindly continue subscribing to my channel. Also practice. Remember, practice makes perfect. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.